Welcome to Our Stories Matter, We Will Dance Again. I'm Susie Hess, joined by my co-host, Mary Bar-Halpern. This season, we're diving into the stories of Jews, Arabs, and Christians, stories of hope and resilience during times of war.
In this deeply moving episode, we are joined by two extraordinary leaders from Schneider Children's Medical Center in Israel, Dr. Efrat Bron-Harlev, an Israeli Jew and a hospital CEO, and Reem Abed Elhai, an Israeli Arab and senior nurse. Together, they share their profound experiences treating the children hostages who were released and providing care during the ongoing war.
Today's conversation is incredibly emotional. We are airing this episode a few days after the release of the 3 women hostages, one who suffered an unimaginable loss of 2 fingers. This moment has been a mix of relief, heartbreak, and anger over the physical and psychological terror they endured.
The slow release of hostages is so painful, not only for their families, but for the entire country. Each moment is filled with uncertainty, not knowing what condition they'll return in or will they actually come back alive. And even when they are released, the visible and invisible wounds are staggering.
Yeah. And, for me, watching the videos of the 3 women hostages being reunited with their families has been incredibly overwhelming. And I imagine, Mary, you seeing the videos as an Israeli brings an even deeper perspective to watching the videos.
It does. For Israelis, this is not just about the individuals. We all know their names. We know their stories. We've been following them and their families for over a year now, but it's also about our collective trauma as a nation. And it's such a dialectic, Susie. When I saw these women come home, it gave me such relief and a little bit of hope. But it's also a reminder of the brutality they faced, losing fingers, rape, starvation, enduring psychological terror, and carrying scars we may never fully understand. Not to mention there are so many hostages still remaining in Gaza. So it's overwhelming to think about how these women, their families, and the entire community will begin to heal from something like this. As they might be out of Hamas tunnels physically, the tunnels will stay with them for a long time. So holding both of these truths is hard, but hopefully, this is the beginning of bringing all the hostages back home.
Yeah, and the healing process is really what today's episode is all about. Schneider Children's Medical Center in Israel has played a crucial role in this, becoming a sanctuary of care and resilience for the returning hostages.
Yes, we're honored to welcome Efrat and Reem, 2 leaders who have worked side by side during this crisis, navigating not only the physical and psychological care of the released hostages, but also the challenges of leading diverse staff during such a polarizing and traumatic time.
Their story is one of resilience, hope, and the power of coming together to bridge divides, even in the face of unimaginable challenges.
This conversation is going to be deeply personal. Their story is remarkable as it tells the story of the Israeli culture right now. This episode is raw and uncomfortable at times, but it's important to bring these diverse voices within Israel to the center. So get ready to get curious and uncomfortable, and may all the hostages be back home soon. Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you.
So, first question that we ask everybody, can you take us back to where both of you have been on October 7th?
So if it's okay with you, since I have Reem on the call, I actually want to tell you where we were together a few years back when the last war was on, about 3 years ago. It was a very short war and a very surprising one. And at that time, Reem was the head of nursing at our cardiac ICU. And it was also Ramadan. And this is why I'm telling the story. And we had to move to our emergency area, the entire ward where Reem was the director. And she was fasting. So today we are recording this on Tisha B'Av. It's the Jewish fast, but at that time it was just at the middle of Ramadan. And she was walking back and forth during that war on a fast to bring all the children down so that they're safe. And the children are, of course, all Israelis from everywhere in Israel, from all cultures in Israel. And I remember that when we finished it, it was evening. It was already the end of that day's fast. And I saw her very pale. So I said, Reem, you didn't eat all day. We're going to get something for you to eat. For her and for the other staff that was there, some Jews, some Arabs. So we went and got something, some food, and got it back. And they sat down aside to eat. And then came one of the parents and just saw them sitting and said, I'm really hungry. Can I also eat something? And she just gave him some of that food. So even before we start talking about October 7th, which is a story which reminds that day very much, but in a different way maybe, this is what Reem is to me. This is what Reem and many other of the staff, Jews, Arabs, are for the children. The children are our compass, and this is what it looks like in everyday life in Israel. I'm sure Reem will say something about it too.
I remember the day. I've never looked at my patients like, where did they come from? Are they Jews? Are they Arabs? Are they Christian? Are they Muslim? They are patients and they are children. They are humans. I think all, I think most of the colleagues in the hospital think like me. I'm also very dedicated to the children and to my staff and to the hospital.
Reem and Efrat, as someone who has deep connection to Schneider Hospital, I remember even as a kid, so I'm from Petah Tikva, where Schneider Hospital it is. I remember as a kid, one of the big thing was that it was this place of coexistence, that you have people that are from all parts of Israel, from all religion, and you have patients from all religion that are connected together. And I think that's what makes Schneider such a unique hospital. I mean, a lot of hospitals in Israel are very similar to that, but there's something about, like you said, Reem, the dedication to the kids and the patient, no matter who you are, is just shining through Schneider. I'm going back to your story about last war, and here we go again.
So I think that October 7th was a very different a different day for every Israeli in different ways. For us as staff of Schneider's, I can tell you that at 7:05 in the morning, I wrote the first WhatsApp to the WhatsApp group of our administration, was ready to go to the hospital. I didn't even know what for, but it was obvious that I had to go to the hospital. And by 8 o'clock that morning, all staff was already, all administrative staff and other staff that just came. It was so obvious that we have to come to the hospital to do something. We didn't even know what to do, but we knew that we have to come and to do something. And it was amazing to see by like 9 a.m. when the IDF was not even in the kibbutzim in the south, everybody was already at the hospital. Everybody was at the hospital working, deciding who we're going to move where, what are we going to do with the different wards, calming the patients. There were a lot of alarms during that time. And you saw everyone everyone who could came, and not only came, some came with their kids, adult kids, so that they will be able to help. Just everyone that could help came.
I heard you speak, which is how we met when you came to LA, and hearing all of how you mobilized. And I'm thinking about, too, how everyone at Schneider, who's so diverse, whether it's Israeli Jewish, Israeli Arab, I'm wondering what it's been like for both of you as colleagues collaborating. I mean, it sounds like you already did this in a previous war, and now we're in another war. And I'm just curious what it's been like for both of you together.
It's very natural. We don't think about it. We do what we have to do. Not have to do, what we should do, what we like to do. This time we're forced to do this. We're forced to move departments and so on, but it goes naturally.
I think that the reason why it goes natural is because of the culture of our hospital. And because of I would say, the culture of the whole medical system in Israel, as you said, Miri, on your introduction. The healthcare system in Israel is a very diverse one. It's actually the only public system in Israel where the natural thing is that everybody is together, everybody gives service together, and everybody receives service together. Unlike the educational system, unlike other systems that are separated in different ways. That's the natural thing. On top of that, I think that children being above and beyond everything, every culture, every gender, everything, means that we are doing the above and beyond for the children. This is the nature, this is the culture of the hospital. Another thing that is important about the culture of our hospital, and I think that Reem was involved in some of these conversations in the past, in the past years ago, but also in recent past, I would say, that when there is a need for a conversation that has to do with the different opinions, with the different feelings, and sometimes even with the feeling that someone is not behaving in an equal way to another person, that happens. There is a conversation about that. We don't hide it. We don't say, forget it, everything's okay, we're not talking about it, go home and do what you want. We're talking about it, we're dealing with it. It's sometimes very difficult conversations between staff. But just like in a family, when sometimes you have discrepancies and things you don't think the same, there is, I hope, I believe, and Reem will say what she feels, there is a place for people to say what they feel like or what is wrong if something is wrong.
I agree, definitely. And I think what helped me dealing with the trauma and with all what happens is the ability to talk about my feelings with colleagues, not at the first, when we decided to do it, to talk about it and to look it in the eye. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. And we could do it. I remember that Efrat called Teams appointment for all the staff to come and share and talk.
Wow. I'm thinking about that situation of having people. So Susie and I, we gave a talk at Gea Hospital when we were in Israel, the psychiatric hospital of Israel, one of them. And we talked about compassion and we talked about being able to see all sides. And that was such a point of tension initially where people were saying, it's hard for us to have compassion right now. It's hard for us to see anything else other than our pain. And I think Efrat and Reem, what you're saying about being able to have those conversations is so important. And once we were able to put it out there, all of a sudden people are like, yes, like we can do that. We can be empathic. We can raise compassion because we're all human beings. So I'm agreeing with you, Reem. I think being able to look at it in the face of the trauma and actively, openly talk about it, even though it's uncomfortable and it's messy, that's the only way forward.
So we are almost 2,000 people as staff at Schneider's. Very different in education, very different in profession, come from different places in Israel. I can't tell you that everyone feels the same about like feeling safe or of course not all thinking the same. And part of what we try to do, especially at the beginning of the war, which is almost a year ago, unbelievable, but it's almost a year ago, when there were tough days at first. And some of the Arab people that are staff, I could feel that they're not feeling very comfortable. And one of the things that I try to do is tell people to be not natural. What do I mean? So when you walk in the corridor and someone comes like towards you, and usually you would say, hi, how are you? And they would say, fine. And then you would continue walking. Stop for a second, say, are you really okay? Let's talk about this for a second. And to approach someone and to really stop. And even if you're not best friends, even if you don't know them, like all the way, you just know them because they're your colleagues. But you know that they will not say immediately how they feel. At this time, you should really make an effort. You should use energy, which is difficult because everyone, as you said, felt like, okay, we don't have that energy now. We just want to, be sad, be worried, whatever. And I think that energy was very, very important. It's always important. But at certain minutes, it's more important. And I know I spend a lot of energy on that at the hospital. I think that especially in the nursing staff, which a lot of the nursing at Schneider's are either not Orthodox, but religious, I would say. And many are Arab Muslims, usually women, not only, but usually women. So there can be a tension, and sometimes there is a tension. But the way to kind of break it down is really to talk. And sometimes it's very uncomfortable conversations, but it's better to have them than not to have them.
I love this because it's such a powerful strategy, which I think if that is something that could be a model, especially for everyone, of course, but me coming from a university, that we really ask, how are you really doing? And especially with the polarization that's happening on campuses, people were silent on October 8th. And then it became like so much polarization and nobody was asking anything. And so I love that strategy of like really asking how you're doing. And yeah, some people are not going to feel safe, but you're creating a transparent environment that it's okay not to be okay.
I did encourage some Arab nurses to talk because the first weeks there was silence. They came and they walked in the shift. They were nice to the families and they did not talk. There was a silence. I think the first week, sometimes it was tension atmosphere in the departments. But I think the administration and Efrat have done what should be done to go around the department, to ask, to teach. The social workers were active. And I think to encourage people to speak, not to say certain things, speak about your feelings. I think it helped. And few weeks after, you've heard the conversations like once.
You know what's interesting is that you're able to do that there in Israel when there is war and there is tension. I feel like here in the US, people are avoiding that constantly. I mean, I can tell you that after the 7th, I was a mess. And I'm the only Israeli where I work. There's some Jewish people, there are Arab, there's Christians, a very diverse place, but I'm the only Israeli. And there was this silence about nobody's asking, at least not publicly. I had a few colleagues that definitely reached out to me and asked me how I'm doing and how's my family, but it was not something that was spoken about. And then we had clinical rounds. Someone brought it up and saying there is the war going on and we want to see how's everybody doing. And it didn't feel like people wanted to share. And I've lost it. And I just took the opportunity, the first one that came to me, and I said, I'm not okay. I want you to know that I'm really not okay. And it's not one of my best moments. I just broke down completely. But I shared how I was feeling. Then people start talking. And I think there's something about modeling. I have a senior position in where I work, modeling from the top that it's okay to share emotions, that being vulnerable is actually being courageous, can open the conversation, and then more people might be willing to talk. So I think both of you, the fact that you're able to have those conversations, both of you in leading position, is a great modeling for the rest of the staff as well. And back to Susie, what you're saying, how can we do that here in the academia? Like, how can we bring this to the universities here?
I think it always starts with the knowledge that a culture at any place is something that has to be continuous. So you can't get into a very acute situation like a war or like any kind of acute situation and expect a place to act differently than in a usual time. So if you have the culture of being open and listen and being very strict about anti-racism, anti-violence of any kind, and things like that, it doesn't mean that you will not have it in your organization. And of course, we have it. And we've had some things that we had to deal with at the beginning of the war, just like we have some things that we have to deal with in our everyday life, because Israel is never a sane place, right? So we now want to get back to our insane usual time, which we are not in. But what I mean is, if you have that culture in your sane, regular times, then of course you will be able to act the same way, or it will be easier for you to act that way in acute times like the one that we are having right now. And I can't say that everything is pink. There are a lot of events that we have to deal with that are not simple at all, either within the staff or with some of our patients. I mean, in regular times, we do not agree to hear a sentence, I will not be in a room with an Arab. I will not be in a room with a woman. Or I will not be in a room with an ultra-Orthodox. No, that's something that is out of the question. It does not mean that we do not take into consideration, let's say, the cultural aspects of an ultra-Orthodox Jewish father not being in the same room with a secular person like me with their shoulders uncovered or whatever. We will take it into consideration. It does not mean that it always works. We will talk about it. We will even explain maybe to that family why things are like that. But we will not cope with someone who comes to say, that nurse is Arab, she will not treat me. And believe me, Reem heard a lot about that in the ward where she worked, a lot. She used to have a head of nursing in the cardiac ICU. Many families that would mention that to her or to others or to the head of department, I will not have an Arab nurse work here. And the head of the department would say, so you can move to another ward. You can move to another hospital. We will not have that. And so that is part of the culture, both so that we teach the extremists of the patients, but also it's very important for the staff to hear from the leadership that this is like a red line. We're not crossing that line, not within the staff and not within our patients.
And this is actually calming and reassuring the staff that they know that this is the culture and the DNA of the hospital, and it's very important.
You know what you're also highlighting? So a lot of people in the US are somewhere around the world, are under the impression that there is apartheid going on in Israel. And I think we should say the difference between that to racism, just like in any other country. What you're doing in a hospital, which is exactly that, it's a great example of why there is no apartheid in Israel, right? Everybody has equal opportunities, but there is racism and you're fighting it, just like any other society around the world should do. And I think people are not aware of that. I have one of my dearest friends. She is a psychiatrist who worked with me in the hospital, and she's originally from Lebanon. And we were sitting through a conversation, and she was under the impression, we know each other for years, literally, she's from across the border, years. And she was under the impression that Arabs in Israel have a different passport that has a little mark on it. And like, what? No, like this is not the way. So, I mean, there's so much misinformation that I think, this is one of the reasons that Susie and I are doing this podcast, is to show that Israel is not perfect by any means at all. And we should be able to criticize Israel. And there's also a lot of information that people do not have.
I love that you said that. Yes. Just like the states, we criticize the states and the government and the policies all the time. And we are not perfect. I've shared this on different episodes, but I was part of the DEI committee at USC, and I just was carrying on as usual and until October 7th. And then I was like, wait, anti-Semitism isn't discussed. Wait, Islamophobia is not discussed. Wait, indigenous peoples is not. Then I started thinking of all the people who are not included in DEI. And so, for me, it was a lot. I didn't even include myself. And with my brothers and sisters who are Jewish, who are Muslim, who are indigenous, I realized how many people are not included. And that doesn't mean that there's not room for change. And so I think what you both are discussing, that nothing is perfect, of course. We can criticize and, we can sort of have growth through all this trauma. And I'm curious, from what you both were saying in terms of if a patient says they will not receive services, from an Arab or let's say a Jew, have the patients changed since October 7th? Or how, maybe I should ask better, how have the patients changed, if that is even the case?
I think months after the 7th of October, I think we all were so sensitive. And I think that there were occurred unpleasant scenes or accidents, not an accident, in the hospital. I think that more patients wanted to be in a room not with an Arab. I think that sometimes, even in the staff, there was a separation between friends for years, Arabs and Jews. Some nurses told me that when they enter the department and the Jewish nurses are talking about something, they stop talking. And I said, but you don't know what they were talking about. Maybe they are talking about, the war, and they do not know how do you feel about it. There was a feeling of not insurance, but sense of tension in the air. Some nurse told me that her colleague, they were working in the department for 15 years, and she asked her, "Are you condemning the what Hamas did?" And this Arab nurse was so offended. She said, "She doesn't know me. We are friends for 15 years. How can she ask me this?" That's one example. But I think the weeks after and the months after were able to heal these negative feelings and maybe the natural feelings. I think things and the relationships went back as they were.
I was just about to say, I think you're describing the effect of trauma, right? The collective trauma where someone is being triggered and then you just assume, you make assumptions about the other person. What the beautiful thing that you did, Reem, is reframe the cognitive, right? Like help her see the flexibility of what else could have happened in that specific situation when she entered a room. And it's a natural trauma response. And I think, again, it just shows that the approach your hospital took, which is a direct approach of talking about it, is a way of healing and moving forward.
Again, I think that all of us Israelis, we are just not the same as we were on October 6th. I don't think that we will ever be the same. In many, many ways. The question marks that are in the air, the feeling of trust with regards to the place that we live in, what we believe in, how we believe in people, and so on and so on. I can tell you about myself that my grandmother came from Germany. She immigrated to Israel before the war. But of course, she spoke fluent German, and my dad does too. But for me to hear German, like from very young age, is really, really hard. I can't listen to that language. I no longer feel bad about the German people. I've gone through that already. But whenever I hear German, brings something bad to my soul, not to my mind, but to my soul. I think that what happened to many of us, even to me in those first days of the war, and it is really traumatic, it was hard for me to hear Arabic. Now, I'm a very pluralistic person. I believe in not only in peace, but in partnerships of our area, in partnerships with the Palestinians. I truly believe in that. I cannot be blamed for being someone who's not for these kind of partnerships and collaborations. But in those first days, it was really a trauma to me. I could not hear Arabic. When I watch TV, even today, and they show again and again those Hamas fighters, terrorists in the kibbutzim, I mean, I can't stand it. It's a real trauma. I look at it again and again and I say, how can people be so evil? And that goes with Arabic. It doesn't go with Arabic. It was like that in the beginning of the war. It really took me quite a while, a month or two, to remind my heart from my head that Arabic, not the event here, not Arabic, and of course not Arabs, which was never, not from day one. But I think that when Reem tells what she does, it's from that place, which is, I don't think was ever a personal place, like against a certain nurse or, of course, not against a certain patient, but it was that unsecure place where you speak about someone and you don't want to offend someone else because you have nothing against that someone. So you know you're not going to talk to them about that, so you will stop talking, but that's what offends. And of course, that's what happened. And I think as the time went by, it demolished, and the reason why it demolished is, again, because that's the basic of the way that we talk about things and the way that we treat together. I don't think that in many other places around Israel, I mean, some people in Israel don't talk to each other since then. Just don't talk to each other. I don't think that's what we have at Schneider's. We are in a bubble, a very good bubble in that sort, and a bubble that we hope can open up, maybe explode in a good way, so that that culture of our hospital will be seen in other places as well, and not only at Schneider's. But just one more sentence about that. I think that, and again, I'm not wearing my pink glasses on, but I think it's the same with the patients. So we tell those stories again and again every time. When you have two patients with two children, that are very young children, and those two patients underwent, let's say, a cardiac surgery. And one comes from an ultra-Orthodox Jewish family, and the other comes from an ultra-Orthodox Muslim family. And suddenly those two families understand that the grassroots, the basic worry in life, your child, your future, the children are our future, is the same. And suddenly a short conversation even starts between those two families. And at that minute, that bubble really opens up to the world, because it's not like they become the best friends in the world, but it's that only place where those two people or those two families would talk to each other and understand that so much of the common denominators are really, there are so many of them. And that happens only in a place like Schneider.
Yeah, that's incredibly powerful, because I give you so much credit for your bravery, because we all have it. We have all experienced some type of implicit bias at some time of our life, whether it was before October 7th or after. Now I'm seeing clearly a lot of my colleagues had implicit bias before October 7th, and then it came out on October 8th. And I've lost many friends, Jewish and non-Jewish. I mean, it's very interesting, like witnessing it. It's interesting now. At the time, I was overwhelmed. I'm curious about how you have been, and this is for both of you, how you've been working with the released hostages, whether they're Arab or they're Jewish or Muslim. How have you been working with them? How has that been in terms of the diversity piece of it?
So I'll have to start answering about that, because there was an issue, again, that we had to talk about when we chose the staff for that ward of returnees. I just want to say that we had 26 returnees, out of them 19 children, 6 mothers and 1 grandmother, and they were all Jewish. The Muslim children that came back, like the older children in their teens, went to Soroka in the south, because their families are also from the south, so they went there. We had to choose very strictly the personnel that will be in that ward. And we had to make decisions which were actually very secret at that time in November, of who are we going to choose. And it started with, are we going to choose only women or men too? Because we understood that it doesn't matter if they're men or women who will come back, if it's children, girls or boys who will come back. Probably the terrorists were either only or mostly men. And so we understood that it would probably be right to have a staff that is all women. And this is what we did. We chose only women. And now to the Arabs. We have really great staff that is that is Arabic. But we understood that it might be a problem for these people, as I said about myself, to hear an Arab accent, or of course Arabic, but even an Arab accent. So we even thought of, should we put Jewish nurses with a covered head, because they might, in a way, look Arab. At the end of the day, we decided not to bring in any Arab workers, any Arab staff into that ward. I think it was a good decision from what we heard from the people that came back. But for me, it was very important to explain to our staff why we're doing that. In no way did I want to insult any of our staff. I can say that I insulted a lot of our staff, Jewish and Arab, because a lot of the staff wanted to work in that ward. Like Reem said, on that first day of the war and always, we just want to come to do things for the children. And it was just the same in that ward. Everybody wanted to help those families who came back from captivity. Everybody. And I got so many phone calls. Why did you choose that and not that? Why not me, etc., etc. But regarding the Arab staff, it was important for me to explain to a lot of those, especially the nurses, because it was mainly nurses, of why I'm not choosing Arab nurses. Really, really difficult. Very, very difficult. I don't know what Reem thinks about it. I'm sure it's not easy, but I think it was the right decision for that time. And it was very tough. Those days were very, very tough for the staff that worked there. I think that the main thing for us during that time, it was about 2 weeks of 3 pulses of returnees that came back the end of November. And every day we asked ourselves questions again and again and again. are we doing the right thing? Should we change some things, etc.? And we did make some various changes during that time, but we had to be very cautious with what we're doing over there.
Efrat, there's no protocol, right? I mean, if I remember correctly, really nowhere in the world is protocol for bringing back hostages, releases that in so different ages that you don't know what type of trauma also each one of them experience.
That's right. A lot of things that we did not know ahead of time.
Reem, what was that like for you to be in that experience?
I agree with what Efrat says. I understand it. And I had to explain it, Efrat. I didn't tell you. I had to explain it to some Arab nurses who were offended that they did not, there is not a single Arab staff in the department. And I explained from the also emotional and also rational reasons for doing this. And I'm happy to say that they understood. They understood. I think it's a good idea, and I think it was right. I am not offended. I also met Jewish nurses. Well, like you said, why they didn't take us? I can do it. So.
Right. And such tough choices because as, Mary was saying, no one knows how to do this. I mean, this is like the first run of how you navigate on so many different levels. And I came from the field of domestic violence, which was also my lived experience. So when women would come in, they would have choices depending on like the person who perpetrated the violence. Would they want a male? Would they want a female? Even with race, I mean, that was part of their self-agency is making the choice of where they felt safe. So we were giving options and choices. And I think it's important, especially in a trauma-informed approach, to give choice. And that's what you did. And yes, it's probably going to feel many ways for many people, whether it's Jewish or Muslim, Arab, it doesn't matter because maybe it's like, hey, we're caring so much, why can't people help? Or, hey, why are we the only ones? Or why can't we? So all of that. But I think in a trauma-informed approach, it goes back to what would be the best outcome for the person who experienced the violence? How would they feel the safest? So I give you so much credit because I can imagine like the pushback, the feelings, all of it, which makes sense, and wanting to get the best possible care to people who've experienced, the worst terror that most of us have never imagined. And I'm wondering, what have you seen in terms of the long-term psychological and medical effects of war? Because you're all seeing what the rest of the world has never experienced.
We are not post the war. We are in the war. We are so much in the war that I think that what we go through here when we talk about stress and trauma every day, like just right now, is just something that at the end of the day, I say to Ofer, my partner, I say to him, just today, sometimes is like a whole lifetime of stress to someone who lives in Switzerland. I don't know what. And I'll tell you just an example from 4 hours ago. So it's Tisha B'Av. I'm a secular Jew. I said, okay, almost no one is, it's summer and the war and Tisha B'Av, nobody's working. I leave the hospital early today and let's go to the beach. I haven't been to the beach, I don't know for how long. And so I left work at 4 p.m., very early for me, went home and we took the car and drove 7 kilometers to the beach. On our way to the beach, we hear that there were 2 missiles shot by Hamas from the south to the sea in Tel Aviv. They did not hit Tel Aviv, they hit the sea. There was not even an alarm. And we were on our way to the beach. So we say, okay, are we turning back home or are we going to the beach? Said, well, it was shot to the sea. What does it matter? We'll go to the beach. And you go to the beach and we sit and we eat and everything's fine, come back home. And I'm more stressed about being in time for this Zoom meeting than stressed about the missiles. this is just today, nothing, right? Nothing happened. Everything's fine. We're here, we're talking. But I know that here in the back of my mind, it's like running, like a computer running all the time in the background, right? Okay, if there's a siren now, what am I going to do? Who's going to come to the hospital? When am I going to leave? Where am I going to drive from? Am I going to put on my other clothes? Like so many thoughts of what I'm going to do if right now there is an alarm. How am I going to say to you, I'm sorry, I have to go? And this is just another normal day. Nobody in my family was kidnapped. Nobody in my family, thank God, is dead. I have 2 of my boys drafted in the military right now. That's something I didn't even mention to you, which is like normal, but it's not normal. So I can't tell you of what post-war is, because our circle of Israelis, Central Israel, everybody in our personal life is kind of well. We are not normal. So imagine who really was there, who was in Gaza. One of the mothers came to visit me in the hospital a few days ago, and we were walking around, and she said to me, why are there so many Arabs here? And we were in the lobby, and there were a lot of people around. So I stopped and said to her, look again. Do you really see so many Arabs, or do you see everyone here like there is in Israel? Count the ultra-Orthodox, count the seculars, whoever they are. You don't even know secular Jews, non-Jews, whatever. Now count who you think is an Arab. And she said, yeah, you're right, but that's the only thing that I see since October 7th. And that is because she was kidnapped and she was there with her children for 52 days. This is all she can see. So this is the other extreme. Everything is October 7th for those people that are there. It has not gone anywhere to other places. So I think if you look at it from a trauma point of view, there are so many circles in Israel of people that have gone through so many different events in their personal and professional lives, and just as Israelis. And we're still going through that we will probably have to talk again in about a year to answer that question.
Efrat, I'm listening to you and I'm kind of like choking here because I think, growing up in Israel, I feel like every siren, and I didn't grow in the South, but like, the second Intifada, like everything is like another scar on your soul. I remember there was a girl from Sderot that she said that every time she heard the alarm, it just like her heart breaks a little bit more, like her soul is shut a little bit more. And I'm thinking about how many of us are still on October 7th, not to mention the people who actually were directly affected. I mean, a lot of us are indirectly affected by October 7th. And the reason it's so hard, at least for me, I'll speak from my personal experience, is that something else was taken on October 7th, and it's the faith in humanity. And when you said about that experience of the mom, I mean, a lot of the people that were kidnapped or murdered were peace activists, were people that were all about, let's, bring people from Gaza. And I think now seeing Arabs instead of seeing human beings, that just stays with me, right? Like that was, I think Hamas stole from many people, is the ability to see human beings as human beings, because now people are just hyper vigilant because they don't know.
I think that you're right, but I don't think it's permanent. And I think that we should be stronger than that. So we're still in it. But it's not permanent.
So that's my next question. So what do you do with the vicarious trauma? What do you do for healing?
Weeks after the 7th of October, I decided I'm not entering any social media. That's one. 2, I love to see the news. I like to know what's going on in Israel and in the world. But I decided that I'm just looking for 1 or 2. I share my feelings. At the beginning, I struggled with myself with a lot of things. I think I told you Efrat's sentence, 1 or 2 sentences about it, about all what happened at the 7th of October, and seeing what's happening in the hospital with the staff and so on. I really believe in conversation. on talking and seeking professional advices and professional help. I believe in healing. Look at us. The world did not ended, but we are going on. We are continuing life. We are attending weddings. We are going to restaurants. We didn't do it the first months. My husband did not accept to go out to a restaurant or, to have fun. I think we will heal. I want this war to be over so we all can have a peaceful, normal life, normality. I want normality.
When I was there, that was the part of, oh my gosh, people are still going out to dinner. And so I went out with Miri and her brother and two friends actually one night in Tel Aviv. And I was so in, fight, freeze, or flee. I think I was in frozen. I wasn't speaking a lot. I was just like taking it in, but sort of like overwhelmed that the restaurant was packed. And people are still living day-to-day life in the middle of a war. And so I said to the guy who was sitting next to me, I said to him, this is amazing that this restaurant is packed. Like people are still like going out to dinner. Like I feel like I just want to like go in fetal position in my bed. And he said, you know what, that's what we have to do. That's what I'm trying to model for my children. We have to keep living. We have to keep like trying to have our normal life in like coexisting with the sadness, coexisting with the terror. Like we're coexisting with war and we have to keep living. I just thought that was just so mind-blowing in terms of you're still in it. It's not even like looking back, like you're in it and you're still. So, part of me, I took that with me. I'm like, okay, if Israelis can keep rising up and can keep having a normal life as much as they can, coexisting with a war, it sort of gave me hope. Not sort of, it gave me hope. And I think also the conversation between both of you gives me hope that there could be differences in opinion, there could be differences in religion, but the similarity or that connection of we want to heal, we want to have connection, we don't want to be polarized. To me, it gives me so much hope. And I hope it gives other people hope of how we can have these discussions, even when they're super uncomfortable.
That's right. I mean, as I said, I think we have to keep thinking about it every day and to work hard for these conversations and to be able to speak and to know exactly not only what to say, but also how to say it. You can say everything, but you can say it in different ways, not to offend the person that is with you, and to listen. Listening is so important. Israelis, we're not very good in listening, not very good. And it's sad because I think that that's our major challenge to start listening more, to just be quiet for a little bit and just listen. You don't have to agree to anything, even if you don't agree to 100% of what you hear, but just listen and then say what you think. And I think that by listening, if you really listen and you think that you do not agree 100%, you will find that maybe 5% you do, maybe 10% you do, 15%. And I think that that's our major goal, to speak, but also to listen. And if you have this ability, and I think, again, going back into Schneider's, not everyone in Schneider is a good listener. But again, the culture and our profession, I mean, we have to listen, we have to ask questions. We are treating staff, right? So we have to have compassion. And those characteristics of our job make us, I think, better candidates for a better Israel. And I think it can be done.
I 100% agree with you. I think that's what makes good leaders, is being able to listen so you can understand and not to respond. The meaning is different. And lead with compassion and with vulnerability. And I think both of you in this conversation that's what I keep hearing from both of you. Like, we're going to have a difficult conversation. They're going to be direct. We're going to do it with compassion. We're going to listen first. And I think that's the path for growth and for healing. So if people want to get involved with Schneider, what will be the best way to do it? And we're going to put links and everything.
Be involved with Schneider is first to come and visit us. And I think that when you come and visit us and not only hear, but see and feel what the hospital is all about, you walk in the corridors and you already know it, even if you don't get a professional tour. But just to come and visit and, of course, listen to what we have to say, see a different kind of Israel, see a different kind of a healthcare system, very different than the American one, in a much better way. This is the first main thing. And I think that once people come and visit us and understand better what our culture is, then if people are interested in different kinds of connections and collaborations, we are open to think about things that can be done. Sometimes people come with suggestions that I wouldn't even imagine could be connected to a hospital. But I think that anything can be connected to children and anything can be connected to people. And so I think this is the best thing that I can offer, just for people to come and visit us.
I love that. And we will. So Miri and I are trying to get back to Israel sooner than later. And I know Miri knows Schneider. I would love to visit Schneider. And especially when I heard you speak a few months ago in LA, hearing about how Schneider prepared for the hostages and creating a trauma-informed environment, like whether it was the colors, the fabric, it gave me like the chills of what the medical system could look like here. And so, I look forward to visiting. So, we ask the same two questions at the end for everyone. So these are the final two for both of you. So what is one thing that you will each do for your own healing and growth?
I really want to travel. I miss traveling, but my husband does not agree to go out of Israel for now, as the war is continuing. Maybe I will flee alone.
First of all, I completely agree with the Reem on traveling. I mean, my travel to LA was definitely not a vacation. So I completely agree about traveling, but that's still far away from my imagination. I think that the best healing time for me during the week is when I'm with my kids and my family. It's the time where I feel myself, like my natural self, where I feel that all my love is, all the love that I give and all the love that I receive is at its most, the place where I feel the best, that I wait for every week.
I love that. So the final question for both of you is, what was it like for you to tell your story today?
I think it was nice. I like to speak. Let's speak my words. I think it's important. I think it was interesting.
Well, I speak very frequently, or maybe even too frequently, telling the story of Schneider's and telling the story of who we are and what we do. But in this conversation, I think that being together with Reem, we sit in the same corridor, and I see Reem every morning, sometimes every noon, and most of the time just, hi, how are you? Hi, how are you? But we did have some deeper conversations. And I think that this was really an opportunity not only to speak, but also to listen to him, which was important for me. And I think that it's very important to have these opportunities, not only to tell you our story, but to, again, as I said, to listen to one another. So it was another opportunity for me to listen to him and of course, to tell our story together, which is very special to me. So thank you to him too.
Thank you for inviting me to be with you here.
Oh my gosh. I am so grateful for you both. And I'm hoping that this will have a dominoes effect of dismantling the polarization and connecting and having the dialogues that are uncomfortable. And I appreciate both of you because vulnerability, as we know, breeds connection. And so I appreciate both of your heartbeats.
Thank you for healing together and for being an example of what it's like to heal together.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'd like to thank our listeners, music composer Jonathan Bargiora, sound designer Ivan Reyes, podcast advisor Donna Fazari, and special thanks to the Academic Engagement Network for their generous support. Today's episode is co-produced by Professor Susie Hess and Dr. Miri Bar-Halprin. Our Stories Matter, We Will Dance Again is brought to you by Trauma Informed LA. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram and at our website at traumainformedla.org. Please give us 5 stars on iTunes so more folks can have access and donate to traumainformedla.org so we can keep recording and healing through our storytelling episodes.